Welcome back to the IE427 garage. Today we're working on a heater for the 25th anniversary car. All right, we're trying to get some stuff done on the 25th anniversary car, and today we're working on the heater. We scrapped, we didn't actually scrap it, we're just not using it, the Factory 5 supplied vintage air heater system that the owner ordered with the car. I'm going to go ahead and reiterate, if you order a heater kit and you have a glove box, rethink it. Because they don't fit. We already did the firewall forward, which gives us about 2 inches more space behind the dash, but the glove box and the heater still won't fit. So we were on a quest in order to find a lower profile heater plenum, heater core box, I guess, and settled on a unit from Summit Racing. It's made by another company, and if I remember, I'll put the link to the other company down in the description. But for the same heater, it's a few dollars less from Summit Racing. I mean, Summit Racing sells their heater too, but it costs more. So we ordered this heater, and it's a plastic box and heater core. You can see I've got it all disassembled right here. It looks like the heater threw up all over my workbench. And what I've been working on this morning is getting all of these tabs inside cut back so that we can get the heater core to go farther into the box. We're creating less volume inside the box, but we're going to save ourselves about an inch and a quarter of space. So along with cutting down the standoffs inside that would actually kind of hold the heater core in place. They are going to hold the new, the new piece in place. But we also cut down the standoffs that the heater core secures to inside the box. So we cut a 1/2 inch off of this, and we cut a 1/2 inch off the one on the other side as well. And so what that's going to give us, it's going to give us about an inch and a quarter of space that we can remove from the heater box. So we're going to go from about 4.5 inches to about 2 3/4 inches. So that's huge in the grand scheme of things, being able to get it down to that size. The other thing is, since these, I don't know what you call them, the mounting holes or mounting bosses are all the way through, we're going to be able to cut this down and still be able to maintain a place to screw a cover to. Now, the heater came with this gasket that goes in here, and it came with this cover. But I think we're just going to scrap both of those because we cannot use the outlets out of the front of the box. So we're going to scrap those, and we're going to make ourselves an aluminum cover that uses the same mounting holes. And we're going to be an inch and a quarter or so shorter when all is said and done. So I'm going to come back and I'll show you the box cut down after I get that completed, and we'll see if I can screw this thing up. All right, I jumped ahead a little bit, and I've got the box all cut down, so you can see it's quite a bit slimmer than it was. I actually got the piece I cut off right here where I told you I'd put it. So we cut about 1.125 inches off the front of that box. And I know there are going to be people out there with some concerns about the volume of the box now and getting airflow through the core. And what I'm going to tell you is that we did the same type of modification on Michael's car. And we reduced that box down as small as we could make it. We also had to reduce the size of Michael's glove box because we didn't have the firewall forward in his car. The firewall forward is causing us other issues in mounting the heater because there's no room for the wiper motor, the Ford control pack fuse box, and the heater all to reside in the same place, but we'll get to that later. So we still got enough airflow through Michael's that we were able to get some decent heat out of the outlets in the car. So knowing that, I did the same size outlets, and we're going to do the same size tubing in this that we did in Michael's car. Now the vintage air kit that we're not using uses the same 2-inch hose and the same type of 2-inch outlets. I like these, the ones they sent, because they're a little bit simpler design than the ones that were sent with the vintage air, but we'll see how they work out. I haven't installed these before, and so it could turn into a nightmare or it could go great. You never know. Anyways, so what we did, I'm going to grab a flashlight real quick because it'll make it easier for you guys to see inside here. So on the inside, what we did in order to get the heater core to sit down farther inside the box was all these little tabs. So that tab, that tab, that tab, and that tab had to be cut down in height. And there are corresponding tabs on the other side of the box as well. And the heater core kind of rests against those. But it's not what holds it in. What holds it in is these two screws. So there's a screw there and a screw there. Screw there. And what we did on those is we cut those pedestals where the heater core mounts down about 1/2 inch as well, which is about the same amount that we cut off of those pedestals in the bottom of the heater box. So basically what you're left with is a smaller box. And the fact that we're coming out of the side of the box rather than the front, we're still going to get air. The air is going to be pressurized. I mean, it's got a blower on there, so it's going to be pressurized when it's coming through the box. It has nowhere else to go but the outlets because the box is going to be sealed. And the air is going to pick up that heat. It may not pick up all the heat. It may not be the most efficient design out there, but it's going to work. So the second thing I did is I took the outlet adapters that we got with our tubing kit. We ordered a separate tubing kit, and I got those installed. Now I cut a 2-inch hole, which was the right size with a hole saw, and the outlets clipped in. But they weren't as secure as I'd like them to be. So what I ended up doing is I mixed up some 2-part epoxy, and I epoxied around the outside of them at the joint where they meet the box and the inside. And I got both of those installed and epoxied, and they're ready to go. Now, these other holes that are in the box here, and corresponding on the other side were places where this mounting bracket was. This mounting bracket, one of these slid into each side of that box, and then there are threaded bosses to mount these brackets, these L brackets, to whatever you're mounting the heater to. We're not mounting the heater that way. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to do it kind of like Factory 5 has you do their vintage air heater kit. We're going to cut out a slot big enough for this stuff here, and then we're going to use the heater blower motor, and it has a notch in the bottom of the box, and that notch corresponds to this fin on the back of the blower motor, and that'll lock in the bottom. And then there's 3 screws across the top. We're going to add another screw down here, and that's going to hold it kind of all sandwiched together on the firewall. It's going to compress together, and it's not going to let it go anywhere. And so that's what's going to hold our heater in place. Now, 3 of those screws will be screwed through the firewall. I'm just going to drill those holes. The only place I'm going to open it up is at the bottom where the notches are that it has to slide in, and the actual opening where the blower motor pushes air through. So I think we're going to be good there. Let me put this back together. You guys can see how tight and compact everything is in that box, and then we'll see about mounting this in the car. All right, so here it is, all screwed in place. You can see we've got the 2 mounting screws there and there. And the outlets are coming out at the back, so that all is looking good. And then I still have one of the screws in there. I just wanted to check it for depth because I don't want this screw to go in and pierce any of the tubing that's in the back of the heater core. So I want to make sure if I have to cut those screws down, because we have reduced the distance between the heater core and the back of the box, that we do that before we try to screw this all together. But that's it on the box. I guess I'll bring you back when I'm closer to getting it templated on the car and we're ready to cut the hole in the firewall. All right, next day, everybody. It's a little warm here in the shop. I've been working on getting the heater box laid out. And so to do that, what I did is I removed this bracket. This is the bracket that held the fuse box right there for the Coyote control pack. This is a Gen 3 Coyote. Because everything's taking up the same real estate. It's not all going to fit there. And we've got a glove box going on the other side. So I told you, we've already had to modify the air plenum for the heater core. So what I did is I took a piece of paper, a blank sheet of paper, and I made an outline of the actual heater box as a template. I marked where the holes for the heater core come through the firewall, for the tubes, the cutout for the actual heater blower motor. I still have to make the marks where the blower motor is going to clip into the bottom, because there's clips in the plastic housing that we're going to have project through the firewall. But I've got it laid out on the firewall. I'm going to give you a peek at what I got going there. I'm working on the lift, and I don't want to move Jim's car because I got the air on. So here's what I got. You can see I've got the 2 holes marked where I'm going to drill through the firewall, and I still have to pull my template off to mark the 3 places where the clips are going to go on here. So what I did is I put a piece of tape next to it, and I marked the top with a black marker so I can put this back in the same spot. If I put the heater core, I'm going to actually put the heater core in backwards on the back side here, like this, lined up with my template. You can see that we've now got room for that glove box. And then obviously those tubes are going to project through into the engine bay, not into the cab right there. So I've just got it flipped over. But that gives you a pretty good idea of what we're doing here. Now I did have to put the wiper motor in place, and that wiper motor would not fit with that Coyote control pack right there. So I just decided to get it out of the way. Now if you're not using the firewall forward kit, I'll bet it all fits, minus the glove box. So you don't have to move the control pack, fuse box, and all that other stuff. Now, I think I'm still going to have room on top of the foot box for the fuse box, the fuse itself, the mega fuse that goes in line. It's going to be really tight, but I think I'll be able to get it all to fit. But the wiper motor had to go where it had to go. I didn't have any more room to push it underneath the cowl of the fender anymore. There was just nothing to bolt it to. So that had to go in first. Then I laid out for the heater, and my constraints on the heater were to make sure that I wasn't going to run into this dash bar right here. Now, it turns out I would have been fine on the inside, but I've got this to contend with. This is for the variable valve timing on the Gen 3 motor. I think it is. Or, no, you know what I think this is? This is for the fuel system. This is actually a controller for the fuel system, because I think this motor uses this to use both the direct and the indirect injection that is on the engine. But don't quote me. I'm spitballing. I think that's what I remember it being. But regardless, it's in there. It needs to stay in there, and so we got to work around it. And as it is, these tubes are going to be really close to that, so we're going to have to bend our hoses around, and we've got a 4-way like diverter module that when it's open will send heated water or coolant to the heater core, but when it's off we'll recirculate it back into the engine so that the cylinder head on, I think it's the passenger driver's side, doesn't starve for water or coolant. So it's going to be busy over here because I've still got to find a place to mount that diverter as well. So I'm going to work on getting the last few things that I need on that template laid out and get it in place, and then I'll probably start drilling holes in the corners for every one of my cutouts, and then I'll drill the main holes for the heater core tubes that are going to project through the actual firewall. And then once that's done, I can clean up the edges, and then I can actually bolt the whole thing together. And I think that's probably where I'll end this video, because there's no way I'm going to get to all this other stuff, hooking up the hoses and everything in one video. So I'll bring you back when I've got that to show you. Bad Company, Electric Land. We have our holes drilled and our opening cut. I haven't pushed it through yet. There's still some, I think I've got one little cut left to do, but I figured I'd show you what it looks like. I covered the motor so that I wouldn't get any of this, these aluminum chips, over in that area. But so here's what we got. What I did is I drilled the holes where the actual pieces inside and out are going to bolt or screw together. So 1, 2, 3. There's actually going to be another one down here, but I'm going to wait until I get the blower motor in place. And then I drilled all the holes out to 1/4 of an inch after starting with a 1/8 inch drill bit, so that I'd have somewhere to terminate my cuts. And so what I did is I used the angle grinder and a death wheel, and I just connected the dots. And so the worst part was cutting the side ones, because it's just throwing the chips up in the air. That's why I wanted to keep the motor covered. And I've got this one slot right here that I still need to cut. But I was getting to the end of my blade, which will probably help me. I might be able to get this one cut done with the last that's remaining on my blade, because it'll be smaller in diameter. But so that's what it is. I'll show you once I get this finished cut. I get the heat and sound mat on the other side cut, because I tried not to cut all the way through that where I didn't have to, because that tends to gum up the death wheel. And then I'll cut that out, and then I'll clean up the edges, and I'll bring you back. I may pull off the tape by then too. The struggle is real, everybody. Every time I have to film, I have to shut the fan off, I have to shut the music off, I have to move things around. But it is what it is. So here is the gaping hole that we cut in the firewall. So down here at the bottom, that's where the bottom of the plenum, the air plenum for the heater core, is going to come through with the little clips where the blower motor will like slide into those clips. And then there's 3 screws across the top. We've got 2 holes over here for our coolant lines, and it came out all right. It got kind of messy. You can see some of the, I don't know, can you see? Yeah, you can see all the aluminum dust from the death wheel, and same thing on the inside. So I've got this pretty well cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and do a test fit on the heater core and the blower motor and get that kind of screwed in place, because I do have one more hole to drill down here at the bottom, right next to the clip. There is a spot in the blower motor. Let's see if I can pull this over here so you guys can see it. So right here, there's a hole in the blower motor that I can just get to with a screwdriver. So I'm going to try to line that hole up so that I can put one more screw in there. That'll hold the bottom tight. Can't get to this one, can't get to that one. That's okay. The clip is going to hold that in the bottom, but I'm just helping. I'm hoping that this one will help locate everything once I get it where I want it. So if the heater ever has to come out, God forbid, it won't be too hard to line everything up to put it back in. So I'll bring you back when I've got this all screwed in place, and then that ought to close this one out, because once that's in, I'm going to start moving on to some of the wiring, I think, on the engine. So, all right, here we go. The heater is temporarily mounted to the firewall. I've still got a lot of cleanup to do. I've got some rough edges. I'm going to file them down. I'll pull the actual heater core out of the plenum, and then I'll figure out how long exactly those screws need to be and where in the bottom that other screw hole needs to be, because I need to mark that. I'm going to do something around the actual tubes that come through the firewall to insulate them, to block up as much air from them as I possibly can. And then get the wiper motor installed, get the heater installed for the final time, and then I've got to figure out where I can mount all this other stuff. I've got to get the main fuse for the Ford control pack mounted. I've got to find a new spot for the fuse box for the control pack as well. So here it is, mounted in the car. And I think we ended up with a really clean installation on this. And you can see I've got just enough room over here to get these hoses by everything here, and then over on this side where we're probably going to mount the control valve. We're going to try to tuck it underneath some of the cover right here, but we'll see how that goes. The inside of it came out pretty good too. So you can see our total depth is way better than it would have been with the stock Vintage Air box that we were shipped with the kit. And we've got it installed for the most part from this side, and you can see our vents, or vent outlets on the side over here. So I think that's going to do it. We will you know, bring you back, of course, when we get around to getting all the plumbing done and everything else. So I'll show you that later. But for the actual mock-up and getting the heater installed and finding a place for it, that was the big thing. But you'll see more of that, because obviously the control back has to be wired, the wiper motor is going to have to be wired, all that stuff. And it'll be interesting to see where we find room for all of the rest of the stuff that has to go in there. So yeah. All right, I want to thank you guys all for watching. If you are enjoying the content, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, comment if you like, and we'll see you all next time. Have a great day.